It's officially time to make America healthy again. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., as you see there, was sworn in as our new Health and Human Services Secretary, and President Trump followed his confirmation, wasting no time with an executive order establishing the MAHA Commission.
This groundbreaking commission will be charged with investigating what is causing the decades-long increase in chronic illness, reporting its findings, and delivering an action plan to the American people. And it's going to be a plan that people are really waiting to hear after years in which our public health system has squandered the trust of our citizens, and they really have. They don't trust us. They don't trust anybody, frankly. They've gone through hell. There's no better person to lead our campaign of historic reforms and restore faith in American health care. And Bobby's going to do it. The United States spends more money in health than any other country on earth, but we're growing sicker every year. We're not as healthy as countries that spend just a fraction of what we spend, so there's something wrong. He's going to figure it out.
And Kennedy joined the Ingram Mingle last night and vowed to tackle more than just physical health problems that Americans face.
We're not just in a health crisis, but we're in a spiritual crisis, and those things are connected. There's a purposelessness in their lives, and no sense of usefulness or effectiveness or connectedness to their communities, and that drives also the chronic disease epidemic and the epidemics we're seeing of depression, of suicide, of alcoholism, of drug addiction. I think we have to address all of those things at the same time. We can't just say we're going to make you physically healthy. We have to.
That's a tall order.
You know, Cheryl, I think this is fantastic, especially when I hear about the purposelessness. We know a lot of times with these horrific acts of violence we see among young people, there is that purposelessness. He's going to be looking at that. Specifically, this commission looking at stimulants and the long-term effects on children. We know a lot of children on ADHD medicine. This is a holistic look at our country and the items we're consuming.
And I think the fact that President Trump came out and talked about this commission and created it and having RFK Jr. oversee it is brilliant, because one of the main things they talk about in the release this morning is the obesity rates, not just make America mentally healthy again, which is what he was saying in that soundbite that you played, but also the fact that you want to tackle what is really the root cause of why we have some of the most expensive health care and worst outcomes in the world, in this nation, which is so sad. We have a wonderful health care system, amazing doctors, but because of the obesity rates, which he wants to address by this commission, that is why you're seeing a lot of these chronic diseases that become not just expensive, but also deadly for Americans. Also, you know, he was hit so much during his confirmation hearing about the vaccines. He was very clear, and he talked about it last night with Laura, that, look, if you want to get a vaccine, if you want to get your measles, your mumps, go right ahead. But why not have more data and science and research done as to what is in the vaccines and also the outcomes for those that are taking them? And there's a lot, you know, he's not saying, again, don't take vaccines. So I think it's a new era for the healthcare system in our nation.
And speaking of that new era, there's a headline that I couldn't get out of my mind. It was 5 days before Trump was inaugurated, and this was the headline: FDA bans red food dye due to potential cancer risk. And listen to this, I couldn't believe it. The synthetic dye, which is made from petroleum, wow, that sounds yummy, is used as a color additive in food and ingested drugs to give them a bright cherry color, according to an online statement from the FDA. The dye was removed from cosmetics nearly 35 years ago due to potential cancer risk. You know, Lisa, as a mom, RFK has made me start to think about these things. I looked at Valentine's Day candy. I had candy in my cart. I'm looking at the back. I see red dye, putting it back, putting it back. We are becoming more cognizant of this. This was banned 35 years for cosmetics. Why are we eating it?
Well, I just want to say I ran into Ian and Tommy at the gym this morning, so we are taking steps
You're ready.
to make America healthy again. But you're right. You look at the fact, you look at chemicals and additives, we allow over 10,000, where you look at the European Union, I think it's, you know, just a little over 300, right? So that gives you a point of comparison to other countries. But I think it's fair to question, you know, vaccines. We were lied to during COVID. I mean, we were told that the vaccine would stop the transmission, despite the fact that if you looked at the beginning, heads of Moderna and Pfizer said that they weren't even testing for transmission. The whole point was just to keep people out of hospital. So we were out of the hospital. So we were blatantly lied to. And you can also look at that point. our public health system doesn't address health. That's what we're up against. I mean, even here in New York City, you look at the former mayor, Bill de Blasio, he was handing out hamburgers and French fries to get people to go get vaccinated. Well, guess what? There's a CDC study that showed that 78% of the people who are showing up in hospitals, who are on ventilators, or who are dying were obese or overweight. Right? So think about the craziness of that and how we handle public health. So what I love about what the Trump administration is doing is that they're going to be focused on the root causes as opposed to just handing out medication. And I think Americans are going to be healthier as a result of it, which is a beautiful thing.
Tommy, politically speaking, RFK Jr., I think, did a lot for the Trump ticket. There was this Wall Street Journal article that interviewed voters, and here's what they said about the importance of RFK. Smith, she's a mother, that's her last name, said she was excited about Kennedy's campaign. It felt cool to see someone in politics talking about something so important to me. She grew up in a liberal household. She voted for Biden in 2020, then cast a ballot for Trump that year. She said the economy, handling of the pandemic, and other factors played a role in her decision. I think there was a coalition of moms, I don't know how big it was, who said, I'm on board with this ticket.
Moms, and I'll also tell you this, as someone who exists a lot on social media, there are a lot of social media influencers that have dedicated their entire careers to talking about some of the things that RFK Jr. has talked about. The seed oils, the dyes, having better products, sourcing better products, knowing what's in your food, being more physically active. So when you see Trump and his entire administration doing so well with young people, it's also because Donald Trump and his entire cabinet now are talking about things that people care about, not just Republicans, things that Americans care about. And the fact that he's brought in these diverse people with diverse voices that care about things that your typical government employee or your bureaucrat may not have cared about for the last 20 years, that's powerful. I'll also say this. As someone who comes from a state that's full of ranchers and farmers, South Dakota, it's not only talking about the dyes and the additives, it's also about where your food is coming from. I have asked and pled with RFK Jr. and anybody involved in this, please bring back country of origin labeling on our beef products so the American consumer can know what they're buying and empower American ranchers and farmers, especially small families of ranchers and farmers, to be able to provide food to the American people. No farms, no food. I hope RFK takes up that initiative as well.
That's a fantastic idea. I love that. You know, there's a question, though, Ian, about Democrats. Tim Ryan, who's a Democrat, he wrote this: we have a rare chance to fix a system that is literally killing us. We are a sick country, and a sick country cannot maintain long-term prosperity. Kennedy's passionate about this issue. He's willing to take on the entrenched interests that have perpetuated this broken system for decades to come. Democrats should join him in this fight. Will they, Ian?
Of course not. I mean, I think we see what Democrats are doing now. They're picking literally every possible fight, even if the majority of the country is against it and voted for exactly what we are getting with Kennedy, with President Trump. Look, I think for years the conversation has always been insurance. Can you get insurance? How affordable is insurance? But that's reactive. That's reactive to the problem. What we're seeing now is saying, what is the problem? And the problem's simple. We live lives where we're sitting in front of a computer or a device, where we're watching TV and learning about all these drugs we can ask our doctor about and then hear all the side effects, where we're eating these very easy foods to make that aren't healthy for us, and then people aren't focusing on their health. And that doesn't just lead to physical health problems, but that is connected to mental health problems. Because when you're physically in shape and you put an effort to do that, it naturally increases your mental health. But we have not prioritized that as a nation. And to see someone like Secretary Kennedy putting this up front and making this a priority, I think it's going to be beneficial not just to all of us, but our children.
I mean, how great do you feel after getting that workout in this?
So good. So
You know
good.
who's the most nervous, Kaylee, right now is the pharmaceutical industry and the food industry. Don't think that those lobby groups aren't gearing up to deal with the new chief in town.
Yes.
Well, that's why he's getting attacked. You know?
Those lobbyists have not met RFK. They have met Trump, though.